Hello and welcome to BroPartisan Hacks, take two. So this is episode 9. We tried just a second ago, and we had to stop because there were
phone calls and distractions.
We weren't really ready.
Everything else just going on.
So this is a new angle for me. I have completely cleaned up, updated my desktop. And so hopefully we won't have any of the technical issues that we had last week and the week before. That's the goal. And so, because I think people are getting irritated with me losing my shit every time every time that goes bad. So, at least I'm getting irritated with myself.
It's like people. I think I was the only one who complained about
it. You don't know, people. I get messages.
I talk to people
from
too.
Our viewers.
Our viewers?
We have all 3 of our viewers.
I have like one guy at work who gives me feedback every now and then. It's like the one guy.
Yeah.
He's like,
we have our last video had 15 views. I think we're up to 17.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting.
So,
gotta
anyway, what is on the agenda for this week?
Well, we had a few stories that popped up early on in the week. I was looking at, and I wanted to get your opinion on. I think one of the ones that you had put feedback in our notes here was about the House bill 842, I think it's listed here, or something like that. Anyway, it was the strengthening unions in at-will states for federal law.
Okay, so when you posted that on our thing here, hold on, I'm pulling it up. So I was like, unions, yeah, unions. But I saw what you were talking about. It's like the third line down. It says the bill allows collective bargaining agreements to require all employees represented by the bargaining to contribute fees in labor organization for the cost of such representation, notwithstanding the state law to the contrary, and expands unfair labor practices to include prohibitions against replacement of and or discrimination against workers who participate in strikes. So, it doesn't say it requires, it says allows. It doesn't say requires all employees represented. But I assume that's what you were talking about, all employees represented by the union if they were going on strike.
Well, it's
to contribute fees.
So in the way it works here in Texas, and again, I work with one specific union, so that's really all I can talk to. So in where I work, there's one union, and the collective bargaining agreement applies to all the workers, regardless of whether or not they are members of that union or not. They can, of course, all the employees who are union members encourage the new guys to join the union, and the new guys look at it and say, why should I? Now again, it's a matter of like these guys are able to have their cake and eat it too, kind of deal. And so by joining, like, I don't know, because they're still protected. They still go through all the union regulations under like grievances and whatever else. I don't know if a non-union member is actually able to file a grievance against like a staff member or an employer, manager person. But I do know that they cannot require someone to pay fees as a stipulation for employment, right? And that was always kind of the difference between somewhere like, say, Ohio, where you have to pay union fees if you join a union job, and Texas. it was always an option to whether or not you wanted to join the union. And then different places, so like I said, different places will have their non-union employees and their union employees, and they're actually not governed under the same rules. So, I don't know. And it's weird because, like, while and it was always a choice for, like, the employees at different locations, because you might have a group of the non-union employees who might get paid more dollars, but then have less benefits on the backside, right? And so a lot of those things were, like, personal decisions that people would make for, like, being a plumber in Texas or something like that. You know, I know your friend went to do that, and he joined that union, didn't he?
Yeah, and I got another buddy that actually went and joined it too, and now he does his own. He owns his own little plumbing business that he opened up. He opened it up right after the big freeze, so
Lots of
kind
business.
a smart move there.
Yeah.
But he's still a member of the Pipe Fitters and Welders Plumbers Union. It's all the same union.
Interesting.
This thing has turned his life around, because he was flip-flopping from job to job to job. And that union, man, it's pretty awesome. They basically pay for your school. They'll find you a job. They'll find you work if you wanted work. You know what I mean? Like, and then if, like, you're in between jobs, they'll pay you. Like something's not working out with the job. And so, like, if you don't like the place you go, wherever they send you, they're like, okay, come on, just go home. We'll find you another spot. And then they'll pay you for the week or two that you're off, and then they'll send you to the new spot. It's a pretty good deal. I guess I think it's UA is what it's called. I don't know. It's like I said, it's pretty awesome. We don't have anything like that here.
Well, you know what I think is interesting is, like, the number of strikes you never hear about. Like, in working with, like, union hands, like there was apparently a strike at a different company around here that I'd never even heard about, that, like, went on for like 2 or 3 months, or no, it was like 6 months. And so the guy I was talking to had, like, burned through all of his savings, because the union was supposed to, they had, like, had a payment agreement where they were, like, paying bills for people.
Yeah.
But then you had to, like, come in and show up at the office and, present all your stuff and say, here's all the money, and then show how you couldn't pay it because you were on strike for this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he basically told me, he was like, yeah, I was on vacation for like 6 months, just burning through my savings and then getting them to pay some bills, but I was partying every night. So I was like, well, I think that's maybe why you burn through all your savings.
Yeah.
When you're drinking every night heavily, it tends to.
If you're not showing up to the strike, you're not showing up to the picket line.
Oh, I mean, he did, because
that might save you some money.
That was part of the thing to get your bills paid, is you had to be there.
I had to picket.
He would just show up.
Anyway, I want you to pull up that little graph that I attached there. It's just copied in.
Yeah, let me see.
So I don't know how you would go about doing that.
I'll do it like this.
I don't know if you want to give away the game on our little notes page there.
No, I can't. I mean, I have before. All right, so you got this graph here.
So this is historical statistics of the United States. So this is unions and shared prosperity. Obviously, you can see what happens with the union membership as it goes down. The wealth gap severely increases. And man, I listened to this interview the other night with this guy who works for the IWW or works with the IWW. And I'm actually not even sure what that is. He said it like 15 times, but I wasn't really listening that hard.
Yeah.
But basically, this group that trains people how to start a union. Like if you are at a workplace, and you decide that you want to start, I think they're the people that got involved with the Young Turks labor force. And if you want to start a union, you can contact these people, and they will train you up on how to start the union. And so, like, that's their goal, is like teaching people how to collectively bargain, teaching you how to start a chapter of whatever union you want, or it's kind of interesting. They give you like the leadership skills to start your own thing. It's called the IWW. It's pretty cool. But I guess my point to that is you can see right here the benefits that unions have. And one of the things I think that they mentioned last night that's difficult now is like if you had a duplex, right? And you on one side, they're like best buddies move in next door to each other. On one side, you have a guy who works for a factory. And on the other side, you have a guy who owns his own landscaping business. And, one is a business owner, the other's an employee, a factory worker. And they're best buds, and they view themselves as the same, right? They're the same class because the guy who owns his own little business he's a hard worker. He's one of those 7 days a week working his own business. He probably pushes his own mower. It's not like he's got little minions out there, running his landscaping business. No, he's out there putting in the work, right? So he's a workaday Joe versus a lordly, business owner. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And I keep messing up your camera.
So they're saying.
Go ahead.
Basically, what I'm saying is like. Back in the day, back in ye old day of this big, when you had this huge increase in unions, the people, they could get together and meet and vote and things of that nature, because they all lived very close to each other. You think about the Industrial Revolution, and basically, most of the factory workers, they lived in the same town. They lived kind of on top of each other. Up in the northeast, and they could get together and collectively bargain. It was a little bit easier. Now everything is a little bit more spaced out. The manufacturing isn't here as much, and so it's the collective bargaining isn't as easy to do, I think, or the meetings to democratize that your workforce. And so it's a whole lot different now. And you've got a huge push from the owner class to not unionize. And so over the course of, let's see, from 1960-ish to 2008 here, there's been a nice little propaganda machine where they really work to disincentivize people joining unions and making it unpopular.
So I mean,
because that's how you get that gap right there.
If I was to analyze this, and let's just talk about this chart here. These things don't happen in a vacuum, right? Like these two graphs don't occur in a vacuum. And I would argue that there's more factors that occurred here as it relates to this graph, like in the rest of the world, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
In 1918,
Absolutely.
we were coming off the end of World War One, and in 1938, we were basically producing arms for both sides, right? Of the European War, what would become World War II. 1948, and the spike in Union leadership, everyone gets back, you know, gets back to work, joins the Union, all the soldiers, and they work, you know. And somewhere in here, in the 50s and 60s, then you had the beginning of basically the House Un-American Activities Committee, and the writings of people like Herb Sorrell, who were in charge of basically the Screenwriters Guild, and the work against both at the unions and pro-communism, because those two were inextricably linked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't have a union push. You don't have a union anything without socialists here in America.
Here's an unpopular opinion
Absolutely.
for you. The guy who, actually, it's not even an opinion. Here's an unpopular and inconvenient fact. Is that the guy who started the House Un-American Activities Committee, I believe his name was Dewey. It's like Joe Dewey or something like that. He was a Union Democrat. And he was the guy who really started going after the Martin Dees. Yeah, no, I can't remember his name. Yeah, it was Martin Dees, was one of the founding members, and he was a union man, and he was pissed off and unhappy with the literal infiltration of the of places like the Screenwriters Guild, and people like Herb Sorrell, who was really a bad guy. So anyway, that's just a little bit of history with that, and so as far as this goes, put us back up here. Like, a lot of that occurred in this time right here, where this propaganda, as you say, started coming out. And yeah, there was a lot of propaganda in it, but a lot of it was real problems. And just back then, like, you're always complaining about how the left eats itself. Like, it was happening then, right? Like in the worker socialists, or Daily Worker, that was their newsletter, their flyer, their article that they would publish, right? And there was a guy who wrote basically an op-ed to the other socialists and communists of his time, and he was saying, like, look, I know we want to talk about our positions in our art, but when our positions like take over the art and then we make the art fit the position, it like becomes crap, essentially. It was what he was writing. And he was absolutely destroyed by his own side. Lambasted, made to wallow in his apology, made to recant everything he ever said, because how dare you talk against us, in our positions here, and the way that we write our stories and produce our plays and write our letters and everything. He got the how dare you treatment. And it's so like the history
how dare you, sir?
Yeah, the history of the left eating itself is nothing new. It was happening back then, in this time frame. And that, like, that movie Donald Trumbo that came out recently was kind of about that time frame, but it completely glosses over the fact that he took money directly from the basically the California I think it was the Screen Actors Guild at that point, which was collecting about $6 million a year, every year, for like 30 years from the USSR directly. So all of that was happening like right here. So yeah, there was a lot of like propaganda stuff that happened. And I'm not saying that the business leaders haven't done anything shady, because I would like, obviously they have, right? And I actually had a thought about that I wanted to hit you with. So how about this? Think about this. So the problems that you have with capitalism are not actually rooted in capitalism itself, but rather the corruption that you see.
Which is capitalism, which is a tenet of capitalism, because that's the only way that it can go. That's how you continue to expand.
Here's my counterpoint to that point, because I kind of figured you were going to say that corruption was inherent in capitalism. I will say that corruption and greed would be an inherent human trait, right? The difference between what happens in capitalism with corruption and what happens with, say, communism, socialism, and corruption. If corruption can happen in both places, then capitalism, the market actually has a chance to correct it. But in the socialist communist government, if the people in power are corrupt, then there is no chance for correction other than armed revolution.
How is the market going to correct? From where we're at right now, how would the market correct? Because the reality is the only power that we have, the only power that we collectively have, the bottom percent, is our labor. It's the only power that we have. And that's evidenced, and you can see it, and this should be one of the big great awakenings of America, is what happened during the pandemic when nobody went to work? Shit tanked. They can't do this shit without us.
The idea that...
And so they dumped trillions and trillions of dollars into the fucking stock market, because all of those businesses would have tanked. And so all the stock market would have crashed. Everything would have went like down. And so that is why the Republican people are pushing so fucking hard to get everyone back to work, and they're coming up with all this, well, you're just scared and this ain't real, and but it's a propaganda machine to get people back into their jobs so that they can continue the machine.
The only people who quit working for real
is
like the service industry. Manufacturing never stopped. Farming never really stopped.
It did for about a week and a half, maybe. It did for about a week, maybe 2 weeks. It absolutely shut down for about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
I guarantee you it did.
Yes.
And I know it didn't because I work in that industry. So like people like me with...
You work in one factory in that industry, and you work in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we didn't really shut down either. I kept working.
Yeah.
But again, we live here. We work here. This isn't the same. I'm just saying that people were freaking the fuck out because it shows us what our power is, and our power is our labor. And that's the only power that we have. It's the only tool that we have to fight against the inequality, to fight against the wage gap. That's the only threat we have. It's the only thing that we can use to improve our lives. That's what I think.
So another factor after this graph, let's take a look here. So 1938 to 1945.
So that's just a correlation. I just wanted to show the correlation. I mean,
no. Let's talk about this correlation. So this,
but
this
the correlation
right here,
of the wealth gap.
How many men died? Like labor shortage, right? That's what you're talking about.
Here we go.
is
Then the
labor
wages should
shortage
have
out
gone
bad?
up.
Yeah,
Then the
they did.
wages should have gone up.
That's exactly what this shows, right?
Why though? Why did the red line go down and the blue line go up?
Because they had to pay their people more.
Why
In this point,
because they weren't before they started unions. They weren't.
well, the union started back
How?
over here in 1880.
The union, but the number of people in the unions went up.
And the very first union was the Boilermaker Union, right? That was one I just looked up on off screen, and you saw. And the reason that one formed was the people were literally like dying on the ships. 18-hour days, whatever.
Little kids going into the machines to poke their hand into the thing.
Yeah, hey, go pull that
while
out.
it's running. And people were like dying at when you got a job, you're like expected to die at your job. Like it was just an expectation.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, iron workers. Yeah, that's scary stuff. I don't want to do that job.
Like it's not just worker shortage. It was the power to collectively bargain, because again, the only power that anybody really has is their labor. Mm-hmm. Like that's and if they can collectively bargain and threaten, because they only give a fuck when you threaten their money, Rob. Let's be honest. The owner class, or the aristocracy, the modern American aristocracy, if you want to call it that, which is what I would call it, but we have almost worked ourselves into another aristocracy or oligopoly.
Mm-hmm. So the ability,
you know
the
what I'm
strength,
saying? Plutocracy.
Okay, so the strength of the proletariat is its ability to walk away, right? Is that the argument here?
And that's it. Like, and so that's why that gap shrinks, and then that's why it increases, because it's gotten to a point where people can't afford to walk away. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things he talked to the guy with the IWW talked about, is when they go in, they try to help people form a union. They talk about, how are you going to help people take care of their kids? How are you going to, keep the lights on, pay the rent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you guys don't, if you go on strike. And the reality is that 70-80% of America lives paycheck to paycheck, and they cannot afford to go on strike. They can't afford to not work. And so those things and those, that's a power that that they have over us is we have to keep going, because our bills keep coming. Like, they don't stop. They don't give a shit. That electric bill is going to show up every fucking month, and they don't care about your circumstances. They don't give a shit. They want their money. You know what I mean? They don't care that you lost your job. They don't care that you're on strike. They're not trying to help. They want their money.
So you like Ilhan Omar's bill about basically removing rent and mortgage payments till 2022?
All of them? For everyone?
That's what I thought the headline said. I didn't read the whole article.
But how much interest are you fucking shooting up on that shit, though? Oh, I don't know, man. I agree with the choice. Like, if you need that, I don't think I would do that, because I feel like I would never pay my house off, ever.
Here's an article from The Hill. I'll show you. All right, here we go. Introduces bill seeking... Introduced the bill for the second time to the House, would guarantee full payment forgiveness on rent and home mortgage through the coronavirus pandemic. Under the bill, there would be no accumulation of debt for renters and homeowners, as well as no negative impact. Yeah, I think it's like one of those things.
For that.
they can say that, but like, is
They would never.
FICA really gonna?
They
Not
would never.
FICA. What's the credit bureau? The three of them. I forget. It escapes me right this second.
The credit bureaus.
The credit bureau.
It's your FICO score.
Yeah, it's your FICO score. But under the legislation, it hopes to increase the availability of affordable housing by creating an optional buyout to enable the purchase of private rental properties by nonprofits, public housing authorities, cooperatives, community land trusts, and states or local governments. All right. I'm gonna say that some of the decisions that were taken by Mayor Bill de Blasio in New York were intentionally meant to lower housing prices and lower property values so that the city could swoop in and buy them up on pennies on the dollar. That has already happened.
Say that one more time.
Decisions that Bill de Blasio made in the onset and the duration of the coronavirus pandemic has intentionally driven property values down in the city of New York so that the government could come in, the local city could come in and buy up those properties for pennies on the dollar.
Well,
this is already happening. I have no idea.
What are they doing?
They're owning them right now and sitting on them. They're not doing anything, as far as I know.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
They put
So since 2007, sorry, I've been looking up some of this stuff on the back to the labor stuff. Labor union membership has increased. It started going down in 1954, and then in 1967, the union membership has been decreasing, and the middle class incomes shrank correspondingly. And then in 2007, private sector membership rebounded, increasing in numbers. About 35% of all labor is members of unions. That's not very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, I think they directly correspond and they directly correlate.
Read that last one again for me. The 35% of labor is union.
Oh, 35% of the labor force is unionized. Yeah.
Is that everyone who works, or is that just union jobs? Because union jobs are skill jobs, right?
That's everyone that works.
Okay.
Labor force.
So most union jobs are skilled jobs, right? Most. Not all of them, but you'd have like, we talked about the electricians, we talked about pipe fitters, we talked about boilermakers, we talked about teachers. These are all skilled jobs. And yeah, I would say that this actually, like, does any of this track back to education and the way that we like? Now I know you talk about kids that you've taught and how they have a plan. They're going to go to college. They're going to study this. They're going to do this. They're going to go be electricians or whatever. Like, you know how many people I've seen that have been like, man, I'm going to go be a plumber. They make great money, and like you just don't see that anymore, right?
Yeah, because that shit sucks.
I mean, I would rather be an electrician than a plumber because I don't have to smell shit. But
so the majority of the people that are wanting to get into HVAC and the people that want to get into plumbing and construction and those kind of things, you know who they are? Immigrants, children of immigrants. Mm-hmm. Most of the kids that I talk to that want to get into labor type jobs, skilled labor jobs, are children of immigrants. Mm-hmm. And they, because their parent works in that industry, and so they're like, okay, if I do this, I can make even more money if I go and get these skills or these tools of this trade, and I can do even better. And so it's, from what I see, it's typically those folks, those kids that are the ones that really work to get into that. We have, we're opening up a whole new career technology education school, where like our auto body shop, our auto mechanic shop, the welding shop, the all computer digital art, all of that stuff is all going to this new school. So like we're losing about half of our teaching force here in a second. But that opens up next year, and I should be okay. I teach in that department, but I teach like on the financial side. And there was, speaking of financial side, there was something that you said last week that's been kind of grinding my gears about when I was talking about how I went back to school and that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, the great American story, blah, blah, blah.
I never used those
One
words.
thing I wanted to say about, yeah, I know you didn't, but that's what you meant. One thing I wanted to say about that is, individually, even though I may not like the systems that we have here, that I want things to change, this and this and this, I will always advocate for people to improve their lives and do the best they can fucking do in what they are given. So individually, I will always push you, go through, do what you can, hit the system, get as high as you can get, do as well as you can get. That's why I participate in the stock market, even though I fucking really hate it. I hate that it exists, but I participate because that's how it works here in America. And individually, I'm going to do my best to make it and to win, basically.
Well, it's like when we were arguing, and I brought up something our siblings said that was like, hey, these are the tools that we're given. I have to operate within them, kind of deal, I made my $1,000 doing this, and you don't approve, and I don't care because I made money. Like, this is what I gotta do.
Well, like I said, I will always advocate for people to continue to strive and do their best and win. You know what I mean? Like that's. And while I may fight against the system, I still have to participate in the system. You know what I mean? And so, in order for me to do well, I had to do what I had to do. So, while I may not like it, I can still operate within it. Anyway, that has been bothering me all week.
Do you think that the skills gap is a real phenomenon?
Probably. And I don't know what it has to do with. I think a lot of people, a lot of people don't know about unions. Specifically, let me just talk about the pipe fitters union, okay? Because I have two friends that joined it at two different times, same union, different locations. They both joined it. When they joined it, they were both out of work looking for jobs. Okay, they wanted a job that paid X at least. They were on unemployment, trying to figure out what they were going to do next. And I think they just came across it, and so when they joined this pipe fitters union, the union said, okay, we're going to bring you in, we will train you. Okay, so you join in as an apprentice, they send you to school. Okay, so you have to, the union pays for the school to go to whatever your local community college is to go to your welding classes and things of that nature. And then once you do all your classes, you have to do a certain amount of classes, and you have to have a certain amount of time on the job, and then you become a journeyman as part of the union. And you can move up and up and up until you become a master, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you make more and more money as you go along. But when they got those jobs, when they joined that union, they had never heard of it before then. And so I think a lot of these things is people don't really understand, one, how much money they can make, because they're both making more than me right now.
Yeah. Easy.
Two, but they also work their asses off. It's a lot of labor.
Yeah.
Boy. Two, they, unions, I think, have been stigmatized in our country, where, even some of the shit that you say about how, like, they're not getting the things that, or whatever, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think people don't really think about it that much. So they're not like, oh, well, I can go and join this union. They'll pay for my school. And look at all these benefits I have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. I got insurance through the union. I don't pay a fucking dime out of pocket when I go to the doctor. Like, they got pretty good insurance. Like, that's part of the collective bargaining. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the dues that they pay. And so there's a lot of benefits, but people don't really know about those things.
I'll agree with that.
And so I think that also correlates with the skilled labor stuff. It's not on, and it's not on TikTok, and it's not on.
Wait a minute. You're saying plumbers and pipe fitters aren't making TikTok videos dancing around the halls like certain professions are? They don't know that they could really get the word out if they were doing these choreographed dances.
Seriously, how easy is it? Just make a TikTok video.
Just dance. Show everybody your
or something.
Your plumber's crack. No. Does the union provide belts?
That's funny. Does the union provide belts? Shut your mouth.
Sorry, I love those guys. I'm just fussing with them. In any case, no, like I don't have a problem. Like that's, I don't know if you misunderstand me. Like I don't have a problem with unions. I don't think they're a bad thing. Like I don't think people should be forced to join if they don't want to. But that's just me.
I understand that. But if I think that if you want to join, if you want to work somewhere and that their labor force is unionized, I think you should if you want to work there. I do think that. And so,
well, should and forced to are two different things.
There's a lot of options. There's a lot of options here in America for you to go choose your job.
Yeah, should and forced to are two very different things. I think those are different. Like, which if an individual wants,
well, I'm just saying no. I'm saying like if
benefit from that that agreement, then
if you take a job where the labor force is unionized, I do think you should have to join the union, or you don't get to work there. I think they do that at. I think there's a grocery union or something like that. I don't know. Maybe. Or like if you go to work for a specific grocery chain, you are a union member. One of the things I thought was interesting that when my friend joined the union, this is a story he told me, because he came from construction, right, where we actually both were doing it, and we worked for an individual. This is when I was putting myself through college. I did construction. we worked for an individual, and so we would show up as early as we could. We would get the truck ready. We would load up. We would do all the things to be ready to work at 8:00, right? And so when he first started, he got to work, got all his tools out, started getting ready, and was ready to work at the start time, right? Well, he was then approached by some union members, and they were like, "Hey, listen, you don't touch a tool until 8:00. You don't begin, you don't get ready, you don't touch it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, whatever you say." Well, then he said the next thing that was crazy was he was sitting outside having a smoke break or something. He was on break, having a smoke, and somebody was carrying a pipe, over their shoulders, and they were taking it somewhere down the whatever. And he got up and he went to go help, and they're like, "No, you're on break. Go sit down. Don't touch anything. Take your break." He was like, "Well, it's no problem. They're like, "No, go over there." Like, they're very serious about it. I mean, he said it was kind of mind blowing. He's been doing it for 12 years now, but when he first started, it was kind of funny. He was like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I just work. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of weird.
Take a break? What? So. What is this? Take a break.
so he's like, it's kind of freaky to me. I don't know how to take that. Anyway, let's move on. We beat this into the dirt.
All right.
I don't know what time we're at or how long we've talked about
48
this.
48 minutes. We're at right now. So that was
that's a long time. Let's move on.
So we could segue into what you wanted to talk about for your main themes and topics. I know you had a spiel you wanted to give. You had some advice, some critical thoughts.
Okay. So at this point, if you are sensitive, if you are my wife, turn this off now. Don't watch. All right.
This is for the boys.
First off, I wanted to talk about this is for the boys. This is for those that struggle. Okay. I wanted to talk about, because I saw this thing on birth rates, and the birth rates worldwide are dropping, and I saw a couple videos of people blaming feminism for the birth rates dropping. They're blaming feminism for testosterone and reproductive cells decreasing, and more sterilization. Now, why is this a problem? That ties back into capitalism and the growth and the need to replace the workforce. That's why the birth rates are a problem. That's why countries want to get birth rates back up. That's why it's a problem in Japan, because if they don't have the workforce, they can't continue to grow. Okay? So what this got me, of course, I went down the rabbit hole. And I started looking into this whole incel thing. Now, what I know about incels is like what I've seen on, there was a
Law and Order
Criminal
SVU.
Minds episode. Or was it an SVU episode? I don't remember. There was an episode where there was this like group of incels, and they used the word incel, and they go into what it means. It means involuntary celibate. And so they're like really disgusted with women, and women should bow down and blow them in the streets because they were nice to them. I don't really understand it. Here's the thing. If you're an incel, one, quit being a bitch. Quit being a fucking bitch. Two, go pay for sex. There is no shame in going and seeing a woman of the night and getting your rocks off. Honestly, if you've been through a drought, just go do what you need to do. It's not that big a deal. There's no shame in it. Just go
Where it's
wet your wicker.
legal. Of course. That's
Even
the
then,
disclaimer.
like most cops don't care. I mean, let's be honest. And you know, everything. I think they find them on Craigslist. I think they're still there. Is Craigslist still a thing? I don't even know.
It is. I don't think you can encourage people to break the law on YouTube.
Well,
so you should do it
okay.
where it's legal.
Sorry. Where it's legal, that's what I meant to say. And then I mean, we can get into what are the causes, what are the repercussions, okay? But I have some bits of advice. One, and this is, you've probably seen it 1,000 times. Get rid of Facebook, go to the gym, and be attractive. No, seriously though. I'm going to give you BroPartisan Rhys foolproof plan for picking up women. It works 60% of the time, every time. Seriously though, it's very effective. Here it is. You ready? Go big early. Now, what does that mean? Here's what it means. If you're out at a bar or you're at a party and you see a group of women and you're like, oh, that one's really hot, that one's not so attractive, and that one's fat. Go talk to the fat one first. Ignore the hot one. Ignore the 5 or the 7. Ignore the 10. Do not talk to them. Talk to the fat girl. Women are catty, and they're very competitive. And so when you ignore the hot one, she is used to getting all of the attention. She is used to guys shooting their shot with her. And when you ignore her, she gets upset. She gets jealous. I've seen this happen 100 times, maybe 1,000. Okay, now, what can happen is the hot girl gets really jealous and she starts really talking to you, and eventually things work out for you. Worst case scenario, okay? Worst case scenario, she's really into her. She really is happy for her fat friend to finally get some attention, and then you go home with the fat friend and you're still getting sex. Okay? See how that works? So worst case scenario, you fuck the fat one. Again, I said this is for the bros. You have to be willing to fuck a fat one. Okay? You're gonna smash some threes. Okay? Just accept that that's going to happen. Be okay with smashing a 3. Get good at your craft. Gain your confidence. That's right. It's a craft. I said it. Gain confidence in talking to women, picking up women, taking them home, doing your thing, right? Be okay with not the most beautiful girl in the room, okay? Eventually, once you've gained your confidence and once you know that you can talk to women and be more comfortable, then the hot ones will come. Things will happen. But it's a numbers game. You have to cast a wide net, right? And you can't be offended when you get shut down. Yeah, it sucks. You'll be walking to a bar and you'll look at a girl and kind of give her and she'll be like, ugh. You're like, fuck you then, bitch. And then you just keep it moving. It's fine. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Because it's a numbers game. It's just like sales. So if you've ever been in sales, you know that it's a numbers game. You have to talk to as many people as you can to get a yes. You may talk to 10, you may talk to 100 people to get one yes. All you need is one yes. All you need is one to say yes. Cast a wide net. You don't, I mean, if you've got a type, get over your type. You can marry your type, right? But when you're trying to date and you're dating around, get over that. Get over a type. Go date multiple women. Just go. Like, quit being soft, quit being a bitch, go figure your life out. What else do I have on that? I don't know. Like, I don't really understand it. And you know, when I told you that, you're like, yeah, this is coming from a lifelong Chad. Bro, I've been bald since I was 24. Now, true, I practically lived in the weight room from 9th grade to 11th grade. Like, I worked out 2 and 3 times a day. So I've got like a natural muscle memory mass looking thing. I mean, now I'm fat, and so it doesn't really work for me, but back in my
I was like also 25
days.
years ago that
But I didn't get fat until my wife made me fat on purpose. I'm convinced that she did it on purpose. She knew that I was a hoe.
had to make you unattractive for all the other ones.
She knows that I'm a hoe. But, you know, I'm not that I would anyway. I'm very happy. But my philosophy of picking up women in the bar is not new, and it took me a while to cultivate this philosophy. Like it works. I'm telling you, it works. It is bananas how it works, but it does. But when I was telling my wife, I was like, "You're the bad one. You're the bad hot one, where you would be happy for your fat friend." Like, because that's the type of person she is. She would be the one where it's like, yeah, yay, like so happy.
The bad, it's really just like she's a nice person. Like...
I was like, it wouldn't work on you. That's why I married her, because she's a good person. Anyway.
I want to interject a couple of things.
Okay, go ahead.
It's interesting because I definitely ran down that path for a while, right? So like not the full blown, no, actually just like just like long-term drought type deal. I didn't even care. And
yeah, I cared.
And it was like, you know, so I read all the blogs and everything, and it was like, should I care about all this stuff? And I was like, no, I don't really want to live that lifestyle. Like, I don't want to be like, I had no desire to like hook up with someone, a different person every weekend or whatever else. Like, I had no desire for any of that. But I also realized that
I have another bit of advice when you get done.
That the type of person that I would meet at a bar was not the kind of person I'd want to date. I mean, just like as a long-term thing, right? I mean, I heard this analogy a long time ago, and I don't remember where I heard it from, but I thought it was great. So I'm gonna hit you with it. And I think I've told you this one before, several years ago when I first heard it, because I thought it was so great. I've never forgotten it. But if women are like steaks, right? The ones you pick up at the bars are like the gristly, meaty chunks that are like left over, you know? So you might chew on it for a little bit, but eventually you got to spit it out.
Okay.
Right? And so like I had a different philosophy going about everything. And my basic philosophy and what's worked for me throughout the years has been stop caring about any of it, right? Work on the things that I can control. And so I started working out a lot more. I started studying a lot more for work. Just be better at my job. Be better at the things that I feel like are important to me. Find something I'm passionate about, and just do those things. And when I was able to better myself, and be passionate, be more driven, like, things just kind of happen, right? And
yeah, that makes sense.
And so, like, I never really, when I was worried about it was when I would get down on myself. I'd feel bad about it. I'd be less motivated. You know, all the things that you've said about, like, cast a wide net, be willing to do this, like, those are things that, like, the pickup artist community has been saying for years, right? But one thing that did stick out was, like, go pick up a weight and put it back down, and then do it over and over again, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's how you do it. And for people who are like real incels, like, the idea of going to a bar is terrifying. Can be, right?
Oh, really? I have rules for also bars, but
yeah,
I'll let you keep going.
touch on that one in a second. But like, the idea of even, like, going to a bar is terrifying, and it is much more easy and comfortable to sit at home on the computer and play a game. And from anyone who has ever been there, they will tell you to just turn it off, go outside. It doesn't matter what you do outside, but get out of your house. Go walk in the park. Go outside and do something, and be more comfortable being outside. And then eventually, when you're comfortable just going out and being outside around people, you know, obviously pandemic and all this other shit, and people are just uncomfortable right now around others anyway, but when you're comfortable being around people, strike up a conversation. You know, and there's plenty of people out there who will tell you, like, there's plenty of charisma channels and other, like, how to start a conversation with a stranger channel. If you're uncomfortable doing that, there's better advice that I could ever give you on that. That's out there, you know, and it could be really innocuous. Bookstores are great, you know, if you like to read. Hell, for a while there, I was, like, going to church for that reason, because I was like, well, I don't want to date the ones in the bar. Go find me a nice one.
I did that too, but then you're not gonna like what I say here. And the churchgoers were also hoes.
Oh yeah, some of them have.
At least the ones that I met, they were.
You think it was like-minded?
Not what I was looking for.
Like minds attract.
But if you're, I was at the point where I was like, if you're gonna let me smash this easy, meh. So, I know, like, it's awful, right? But, like, that's how my brain worked.
I think that's
you're just also, so I've got a couple more things I want to talk about in regards to this. And again, I know this is coming from a former chat. Okay, so listen. Rules at the bar. 1, you don't buy anyone that you don't know a drink.
100%.
Ever.
It doesn't matter.
Do
how
not
hot
be
she
that
is.
guy. If they come up if they ask you for a drink, walk away.
Yeah.
Don't offer. If they want to talk to you, they can talk to you. And I've that's another thing that actually, when you are standoffish, not to be like, don't be an asshole, but if you're not, like, bending over backwards for a woman, they tend to find you more attractive. That's just one of the things. Like, if you're not going to be like, oh, let me buy you a drink, blah, 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 don't do that shit. Don't do that. Be willing to. I used to just kick it. Like, be okay just being at a bar and being alone and having a good time without meeting someone. That's another thing, is you have to be okay just to have a good time by yourself, even if or with your buds. $20 a night. Don't spend more than that. $20. That was always my limit. I was never going to spend more than $20. I would buy a $4 drink, tip, and that's it. That's all I'm getting. Yeah, go to a cheap bar.
Unless you hit up the place with the $2 you call it.
Still, I still had a $20 limit. No matter where I was a $20 limit. That's all I'm going to spend. The other thing you kind of touched on. Let me see if I can remember what I wanted to say. Yes, be comfortable in your own skin. Like that is, like what Rob was saying is probably the biggest key, is being comfortable in your own skin. Your relationships don't define you. Who you're with doesn't define you. You define you.
When I was like 14,
quit being a bitch.
When I was like 14 and you were 20, 21 something, right? We had a conversation at one point, and I've never forgotten it. And it was one of those things where you told me, you were like, look, because I was either going to like some little high school dance or something, or I was nervous about something. You were like, look, listen, just go out there and do your thing. And you know, there's people who's gonna like it, there's people who's gonna hate it and make fun of you. Fuck those guys, because you got the people who love it, and you're having a good time. So
no, we were at a club.
Yeah,
we were at a club, and you didn't want to get on the dance floor, and I was like, no, it doesn't matter. Nobody can dance. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. None of these people know what they're doing. They're just having a good time. That's it. So just get out there, and you can just dance by yourself. Who gives a shit? Like, you don't have to go out and be dancing with somebody. You know how often I would pick up women just by going to the dance floor and just being okay to dance and being out there?
Yeah.
All the fucking time.
You went to Sherlock's that one time, and no, let's not talk about that one. Never mind.
Sherlock's is the meat market. I don't even know if it exists anymore because I don't go out anymore.
That place, man.
You know, because I'm married and have 5 kids.
Yeah.
But that was, dude, that was the meat market. If you couldn't pick up ass at Sherlock's, you were not trying. Like that.
Yeah. That place was something else. In any case,
and it was like so birth rates, MRA. This is something new to me. Like, I didn't even know that this was a thing. Like, men's rights activists and anti-feminists, and like I said, I went down this weird rabbit hole on this type of stuff, because, you know, why would I know anything about it? But what do you know about that? Because I'm not, like, what is
more knowledgeable years past. Like, so there's a few organizations as far as the MRAs. Of course, they've all been labeled as misogynist and everything else, but like, there's a great documentary out there from a former feminist that's called The Red Pill, and I think it used to be on HBO Max, or it was on one of the streaming things. And what it was about this lady who went in to basically expose how all these MRA groups are like super duper misogynist, they can hate women and everything else, and wound up changing her mind, like the documentarian, about like what they're really about. And so the thing is that some of them, a lot of, like, you can't talk to these guys who've been through like a horrible divorce and basically just been taken for a ride and expect them not to like have a chip on their shoulder, right? So there's plenty of people out there who just hate women, right? But at the root of it, and a lot of their arguments come down to, look, it's a modern civilized society. There's no reason why the courts have to rule in one direction every single time.
Yeah.
And that's the number one complaint that they have as far as like legitimate standing. Now, again, there's plenty of them that are just like hate women or whatever else, but like, you know, there's these guys who's like got divorced and their wife made more than she did, but yet she collects alimony from them every month. And it's not always the case. And, you know, you see stories every now and then about the woman who is a provider for the household and she has to pay money to the dude. I think that happened in like a celebrity trial recently for it, maybe like Adele.
Oh, yeah.
But that's rare, right? And so that's kind of what they're thinking. A lot of it's about custody battles.
Okay.
As far as that, so that exists, right? And that's really what a lot of those groups are trying to push for reform. But there's also they get lumped in with the straight up like anti-feminist crowd, and these two things are not the same, but they're put together to basically like shut down any conversation about legitimate issues. That's what I see. Because there's plenty of groups that are out there just like He-Man, woman hater, like, okay, whatever, shut up. Like, that's not a real.
So I actually joined. I joined when I was going through the custody battle. I joined like a law men's custody group, and that whole activity costs me not the group, but the custody battle cost me around $40,000.
Yeah.
And I won. Luckily. Again, I had a lot of help.
You had a folder that was like this big parents. Too, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. So,
and like,
but
it took that,
just. But paying that money for the lawyer, paying that money to, just to win, it essentially dropped about $40,000 for my kids. And what I originally told the lawyer when I went is I was like, just understand there's not a price I won't pay for the kids. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing that's going to stop me. You know what I mean? Like, so whatever we got to do to win, that's what I want to do. And dude was a beast.
Your second
guy. I ended up, yeah, the second guy. I ended up hooking my buddy up with the same guy, and his ex was trying to like take the kid altogether, like not even let him have her at all. And he ended up getting everything he wanted. He got week on, week off. He got, is it okay to give this guy's the lawyer's name? Like, because I'm telling you, if you're in the DFW area, his name is Adam Seidel. This guy, if you're a man and you need help, he's expensive. Okay, he's a $5,000 retainer and he's $300 to $500 an hour. So it's expensive, but the dude is good. And he will help you a lot. Like my buddy got his week on, week off, got the judge to order his ex back into the town, that she couldn't leave town, because she was trying to move off to the other side of DFW, which I don't know if you know anything about DFW, but it's, you're an hour away, just 2 towns over. So got her to move back, had this kid has to attend school in that school district. I mean, it was really good. Like he got everything he wanted, and he spent a lot of money doing it. But I think ultimately that's what it takes, is just being willing to spend and having somebody that can help you spend too. Our parents helped me a lot. I know his union ended up helping him out with some of the upfront costs. Yeah. Which was really cool. Like he went to his union rep and he was like, this is what I'm going through. I need some help. I need a front or something. And the union ended up helping him with some of the upfront costs. Now he had to pay the later costs.
Right. I'm sure he ultimately had to like pay it back or something, right?
I don't know how it worked out, but I know that the union ended up helping him.
That's great.
With that stuff. So, so anyway, my point is it is possible, and I did, when in regards to the custody stuff, I did join a men's custody group. So I guess I didn't really understand that, because I went down this like weird anti-feminist thing the other day, which like I said, I had no idea was even a thing.
Yeah, like I said, there's plenty of that.
I'm a feminist.
Yeah, there's plenty of that, but like what you did was join an MRA group, like, and like I said, they're two very different things. You know, and like I said, the media is going to paint them all as the same, just like they're going to paint all these incels as like the SVU guys, like no girls in our video games. Like, come on, people, like this isn't a real story. I was watching something the other day. It was something along those lines. I think it was on the Elementary show, and they did something like that, and they were, you know, because Elementary is kind of an older show, but we were watching it on Hulu, and they did something like that. And the whole episode.
That's the Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it's the Sherlock Holmes, who's actually like a heroin addict show. Like,
American Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But he's still British, but he's in New York. Anyway, it's not a bad show. I liked it a lot. But just that whole episode, I was just like rolling my eyes the whole time, just like, oh my god, really? These are
there are people like that, man.
No.
Who was this YouTube guy? Hold on. Let me see if I can find. It's like Bachelor something. Hold on. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. Oh, why is it in dark mode? I don't like that shit. It's like, Jesus. Man, I don't remember what it's called. I watched a reaction video to it. And I was like, that's what got me started on it.
Reaction video to
the Bachelor guy who was talking about like
the Bachelor host of The Bachelor.
No.
Because the only reason I say that is I just saw this article right here. Bachelor host booted for next season.
Because I do think there is such a thing as toxic masculinity. I do think that exists. I know that's like that's against the rules to say that.
To say that it exists?
Yeah.
Is it against the rules? Whose rules?
The rules.
Oh.
Like the man rules. Bro code.
So, my thoughts on that.
But I think it gets, you know what happens. Like it gets watered down.
Yeah.
And like, you know, everything is now toxic masculinity, or any type of, if a man gets angry at all, it's toxic masculinity.
Right. Yeah.
Can you hear that?
I do hear that. I thought it was mine at first, but no.
No, it's
He's
mine.
in the garage. I can hear him. Yeah. No, I got into an argument with Mom on Facebook of all places about like toxic masculinity, and like it's one of those things. It's like, yes, there are bad people out there, right? There are bad dudes, and 99.9% of the time, the people that stop them are good dudes, right? And both are masculine. But it's just like I don't think we have enough masculinity, and we've watered it down, like you said, to not have good masculine role models in this country, right?
Yeah.
I just like we had a father that provided for us, but he was not the most masculine of dudes as far as like just physical characteristics, right? Like we were both bigger than he was at like 15, 14, right?
Yeah.
But as far as
5'7",
as far as like he's not that short, but as far as like how a man should behave,
he is that short. 5'8" on a good
I was
day.
like, Mom's 5'8". He's at least as tall as she is, right? So
5'8" in heels.
Yeah, he's wear boots, right? Not heels or boots, masculine, right? I'm trying to get to a point here. Damn it.
Sorry.
But as far as like how a man should behave in the household, what a man should be responsible for, and like just basically how to interact with your family, we had a great role model in that, right? And
yeah, that's true.
And so like, you know, if you want to talk about
like regardless of physical characteristics, being a man,
to be a man, right? And so like, you know, because of that example, you and I both have these perceptions of like what our job is as a father, as a husband, because of that example that we were given, right? If you look at certain demographics in households, it's like 70% without a father, right? Without a father figure.
Yeah.
And so then you have to ask yourself, like, who are the examples these young boys are looking up to? And it's either celebrity nutbags or mom. And so there's no real good masculine example as far as like how to behave yourself, right? And how you should interact with people and in a positive way, right? And so then they have all this pent-up aggression maybe and these other factors that just testosterone brings, and there's no real outlet for it, right? And so then you end up having people that just get in a lot of trouble because they don't know what an appropriate, place to put that is. And so I think a lot of these things are like interconnected generationally, and maybe that leads to a lot of like lower birth rates or whatever else. But like, you can't have kids if you're in jail, man. Like, it's just, And one of the other things is, if you think about it in terms of like socioeconomic perspective, and especially in like, say like the Black or Latino community, right? And specifically in the Black community, right? Like that's the 70% fatherless homes and a high percentage of incarceration, right? So the dudes that aren't in jail, they're surrounded. There's like one dude for every 5 women in those neighborhoods, and so like they don't have to settle down. Like what motivation is there for that? Right?
Yeah, it's valid.
There's no real driver for that. And so we've incarcerated like 60% of this population or something ridiculous like that. I don't even know what the real numbers are, but it's ridiculous, right? There's like 13 million prison population in the U.S. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
So, and like of that, like 60% of those are minority groups, So you have this whole demographic that their men have just been like removed from society. And it's been generationally occurring, you know? That shit's been going on since like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. No, it's not like a new phenomenon. And then with the whole, anti-crime bill of the 90s, I mean, that increased incarceration rates by another 50% by itself. So, as far as like masculinity, I don't think we have enough. That's my whole point. Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's kind of funny because there is I think there is some valid points to that. Can we pause for just a second?
Sure. So I had another thought about, we're talking about toxic masculinity and lower birth rates, right? One of the things that you'll see if you look around on, say, like the feminist blogs, is the 30-something journalists or reporters who are complaining about not being able to find a man. What are your thoughts on those? Have you seen those? Do you know about them? If you don't,
I think it's this. I have the same advice for them. Get off Facebook. Get off Facebook.
Instagram.
Hit the gym. Delete Instagram. Go to the gym, and cast a wide net. That's what I got for you.
The articles in question are not that they can't find someone to have sex with, right? It's they can't find marriage material, essentially. Is what it is. These articles that talk about, like, I had fun in my 20s and now I'm ready to settle down and there's no good man to have. And I say that kind of like tongue in cheek, but like almost verbatim articles, one after the other, after the other, after the other. One, from the same author. I had a screenshot on my phone for a long time. I probably still have it, but I don't want to dig it out. But from the same author, she had this article that was like, I rang in my 30s with a threesome, and then like 2 months later, it's like, I can't find a good man to marry or something like that. And everyone's like, do you think maybe you are to blame for this? And asking that question, asking that question is anti-feminist.
Here's the thing. Like I said, for those people, I have the same advice. Get off Facebook, get off Insta, get off Twitter, and go outside. Go do something. Find something that you like to do. Find a hobby. Do that hobby. Go to places where you meet people that also have that same interest, and then meet people. And then those people will introduce you to other people, and then other people will introduce you, so forth and so on. Okay? That's how relationships are built. It's not going out and picking up people at a bar. Now, and that's what's funny about all the things that I said, because to me, incels is you just need to have sex, right? Like, that's what I perceive in my head as, like, just go get laid. Why are you playing, right? Just go fucking get laid. Quit bullshitting.
Most incels, I can tell you that just from anecdotally and from what I've seen and a lot of the data and a lot of those dudes have a problem with is they're fascinated by one particular woman, right? And they put this individual up on the pedestal. And so the very idea of what you're saying is like cast the wide net is anathema to what they perceive as their soulmate, right? And it's to come to the realization that, like, there is no just one person for you. There are several people with whom you are compatible with, right? And then marriages work, and it's not always perfectly compatible, right? So, um,
let me add to that because do you have more?
No,
because I think
go ahead.
like what you said was marriages work and relationships are work, and there's nothing that's going to be perfect. Be okay being in the friend zone. Be nice. Don't expect sex for being nice. Okay, that's a biggie. If you're trying to be like
gentleman.
trying to right, if you're trying to get in good with a girl by being nice to her and she takes advantage of you, it's just what happens. Okay, people tend to be terrible. Okay, now.
If you would, for any of the guys who had been on some of the MRA red pill boards or whatever, it's like I think you would come to the realization on your own where the girl would say like, I just want to be friends. You're like, I got friends. I think you had told me that line. Well, you're like, I got friends. That's not what I'm looking for here.
Well, and that's the other thing is be upfront with your intentions. If you want to date somebody, tell them that you want to date them. Don't wishy-wash about it. Don't get stuck in the friend zone because you weren't honest about your intentions. And then, so my wife put me in the friend zone for 3 years. And that's my wife, and we have lots of children together. So it's not all bad. It's not always going to end the same. 3 years, but
yeah, you kept working.
I mean, that was a different deal. We had dated before. We'd previously dated, and I kind of broke her heart. I did it. It's my fault. And we started hanging out again as friends, and I came to the realization that that's the person I wanted to marry. And she was like, fuck you broke my heart, but I want to be your friend. I want to hang out with you. And I was like,
all right,
fucking fine. But I never stopped with my intentions. Like she and so I basically that I did make a decision at that point, and basically like, you're the person that I want to be with, you're the person that I want to marry. And I was upfront about that. Like I knew, and I told her often, much to her chagrin. I wasn't, and then she would date people, and I would get really upset about it, and like, date other people also.
Jealous jerk, and then try to make her jealous by also dating some random.
Yeah. All of those things. Yeah. Anyway, it all worked out in the end.
You know what I find interesting?
We've been married. What's that?
Go ahead. I was gonna segue to a different thing.
We've been married. I was just saying we've been married for what, 4.5 years now, but we've been living together for almost 9.
Yeah, the whole family was just kind of like, it's about fucking time, guys, got married. Jeez.
I know it was officially 12 years. 12 years in between the divorce and remarriage, because I was being very picky. I'm not gonna lie. After the first time, I didn't want to get divorced again. Divorce sucks, assholes. So it's the worst.
Yeah.
So I was very, very picky and very choosy about who I was going to end up with.
What do you think? Did you see the OkCupid data that basically said like women pick within their own age groups? So like a 22-year-old woman will pick within you know, mostly like she'll message people her own age group, 25, therefore 30, same thing. Then they're pretty much their own age groups. Men on OkCupid invariably message the 22, 24-year-old at whatever age.
That's funny. I did not know that.
Yeah. Like overwhelmingly. Yeah. Overwhelmingly. And so I thought that was a very interesting
Sounds exhausting.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
20-year-old. I'm around teenagers every day. God, they're exhausting.
And annoying and
dumb.
Such a dumb kids. So I don't know. I think that's an interesting point, and you know, it's people. You know, you declining birth rates. You talk about like people who've delayed having kids, right? It's harder to have kids.
So one of the things that I think is really interesting, going back to the birth rate stuff, and what I think are some of the issues is a lot of people don't want to have kids. You know, a lot of people have made choices to not have kids because of cost. A lot of the younger generation are not having kids because of, you know, the climate change concerns, believe it or not. Like, there's like, I'm not bringing a kid into this world, right? I think mostly in America, it's the cost of raising a child. Like, on average, that shit is $13,000 a year per child. That's the average cost to raise a kid. $13,000 a year. So when they talk about cutting the child poverty rate in half with 3,600, I think they missed the mark. I'm just saying, because like, you know, I have five children. That shit is fucking expensive. Do you know what the food bill at my house is when I had 2 teenage boys living here?
I think you told me it was like $1,200 a month.
$1,200 a month. It was a rent payment for food. Yeah. Like,
and your wife works at the grocery store.
Yeah, this. Yeah, that's with the discount. That's with the discount. So my my point is like, you know, the cost, thinking about the cost and thinking about what it takes to raise a kid and go through that whole thing is really, I mean, that's a pretty good choice if you're living at home, because a lot of kids are living at home because they don't have great jobs. The wages aren't there to meet with the cost of living. You know, one of the things that everybody talks about when they talk about the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour doesn't even get you an apartment. You can't get a, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you work full time, you would have to work another job on top of your full time job to afford to live. If you're trying to raise kids on that amount of money, it's impossible, because you can barely afford to live for yourself. And then if you have 2 jobs, then you're not at home to raise a kid. So what would be the point?
So you think more people just need to join unions?
Just to have kids, I think we need to raise the fucking minimum wage.
Did you see the study? And this one caught my eye. It was again a while back. I read a lot of these things, and it was like diametrically opposite. And they surveyed people, and they said, what do you think other people consider success as? And 75% of respondents said like wealth and fame, you know, being famous, kind of deal, like being wealthy and or famous. is what
Mm-hmm.
people believe others consider success. But what they consider for themselves to be success was having kids. And it was like 75% one way, 75% the other way. And so, I don't know, I think it's interesting that, like, people consider that for themselves as a measure of success. Right? Just having kids, raising kids.
Yeah.
As a measure of success. I would agree with that, you know, perspective. Mm-hmm. But when people were looking at what others would consider success, they just think everyone else wants to be famous, right?
Yeah.
So,
or wealthy.
Or wealthy. Well, yeah, or both, you know, because a lot of famous rich people. But, did you see this right here? I'm gonna share my screen here.
Oh yeah, I did actually see that. I'm trying to stop effeminate boys.
What were your thoughts on this?
I don't know. There's like a whole like Superman propaganda thing going on with the military and all that stuff about masculine men and manly men, and these are the things that men do. And so they're really, really like I think I read that article, and they're really pushing this manly man narrative to young boys. They're introducing it into the schools, like.
It could imperil the country's national security unless we solve this crisis.
Yeah. I don't know.
This is Mao Lee, a businessman, says they're overprotected by the family. They don't do physical activities anymore. Nowadays, girls are becoming more like boys, while the boys are becoming more like girls, introverted and shy, said another parent. Boys are less masculine than when I was.
But you know, age. like part of fascism is the idea of being strong, and so you know you have an authoritarian leader, right? An authoritarian government, and strength is part of, and manliness is part of that culture. Would you call it a culture? I don't know. Is part of that, like, being of fascism. Strength is like a huge part of it, and then fear also, like creating fear and having something to fear. So when you talk about, you know, if we don't fix this problem, we've got da 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 da, and so like I don't know. It is really interesting, but that apparently the Xi Jinping, I think that's his name.
President Xi.
He's really concerned with strength and manliness, and is really from what I understand, he's the one really making this push. I may have read that article or one very, very similar to that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you know, one of, I guess, the benefits of being a lifetime president or whatever, like President Xi is he can determine long-term policy for the country.
Right.
And, you know, this article does bring up the one-child policy from 1979 to 2015 to deal with our burgeoning population. The retirement plan in China was like, have a son, right? And your son will take care of you and your dotage. So like, and you know, if you didn't have a son, man, you were kind of like sent off to die in the rice fields when you retired. If you didn't have someone to take care of you. So like their population swung from like a solid, like we have it here in the States, it's like 51-49 women to men, and then over there it's like 60% dudes, right, and like 40% female. So a lot of their dudes have just kind of like checked out. Yeah, no, they've just like checked out. They're just like, there's no way I'm gonna get a date. There's no way, so I might as well just like sit at home and paint my nails. Like, this is about the feminine, this is about as close as
Raising them gay.
this is about as close as I'm gonna get to getting a date. It's like I'm gonna sit here and paint my own fingernails, like so. Like that created a ton of problems in China specifically, is that one child policy, because they'd be like, oh, you're having a girl, let's kill it and then have another child so we can have a boy. And they would do that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. Hey, I'm gonna send you an article.
All right.
Or I'm gonna put it in the weekly thing here.
Okay. I think this will be our last note then for today. We're coming up on time.
Why did that not? Do what I want you to do. Why did that not do? Urgh.
While you're putting that article up, I just want to point out one thing that I found that was interesting was that Abbott started his Operation Lone Star and not one media organization covered it, except like the New York Post and some of the more right conservative outlets. Because when I searched for it on the 10th, like CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, BuzzFeed, New York Times, and Washington Post had not posted one article about it. Thought that was interesting.
What are you talking about? Say that one more time.
The note I put in there about the Texas governor.
There it is. The Washington Post article I just sent you.
Oh, okay. I'll pull that up, but I wanted to touch on this just real quick, and not really so much as far as like the contents of it, because I mean, if Abbott believed this was a real problem, he probably could have done something before they had a bunch of COVID positive people released into the state. Just so much as the fact that no one else covered it. Not one national media syndication.
I have seen that.
And this was on the 10th. He went down and gave I think it was either the 9th or the 10th this last week. He went down and gave a big old press conference on the border. And nobody covered this. So it's deploying the National Guard, DPS, Air, Ground, Marine, Tactical Border Units, basically to try and shore up the border in Texas. You sent an article. Let's see here. Where did you put it? Washington Post.
It's right here.
I got it.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So I thought this one was really, really interesting. Basically, what it says is, so the richer areas are actually taxed at a lower rate, and here's how they do it. So in a city, let's just say Dallas, for example. In a city, it's a flat rate. Everybody pays the same, right? Mm-hmm. Or ideally, everybody pays the same rate
3%
for their taxes.
Right.
Whatever it is. And everybody pays. But what determines that 3% is the tax assessor goes and they look at the house and they determine how much the house is worth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the house, they look at it because they can't go inside. They don't know what it looks like inside. They're not looking at the upgrades. They're not looking at any of that stuff. They just say, okay, that house is worth X dollars based on location, et cetera.
Mm.
What they said what's been happening is that the wealthier houses are being taxed at 1.5% of sale price.
Yeah, here it is.
And then right there. And then that the poorer houses, and it's not like it's not like, you know, minority. I mean, it's just the poorer houses, poorer neighborhoods across the board, white, black, Hispanic, whatever. I mean, obviously, there's a disproportionate number of minorities in the poorer households, redlining and whatnot. But excuse me. But from what I can see, they're basically just raising the price of, or the assessment price of the house to be taxed at, which is 4% of sale price instead of like 1.5% of sale price.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting. Pretty, you know, and it's like all over America that's happening.
Yeah.
It's really expensive to be poor.
It's
like,
it's really interesting. Like,
I don't know.
Like the county assessor, there's like usually one or like a team of people who are responsible on an annual basis to go around and do the property assessments.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I know in my neighborhood, it was booming pretty recently. So like the assessed value of my house has gone up every year, basically since I bought it. Much to my
That's tough.
dismay.
Much to your chagrin.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's like, I know my property taxes have gone up. The property taxes where I live aren't exactly cheap either, because I think ours start at like 3.8 or something like that. So it's already like really, really high for the city. So that's interesting. You know, I looked at like filing a complaint or whatever else and like going to fight it, and then I realized that my house is already like the cheapest one in the neighborhood, like in my street. All the valuations of the houses around my area were like $20,000 or $30,000 more than what my house was, and so I was looking at it and I was like, man, I could challenge this, but then it might go completely opposite of how I'm like. They might be like, oh, we can raise it up a little bit more. That's just looks like we actually undervalued.
Look at all these
your
upgrades
house
you made.
Yeah. I haven't
See that you got a new fence there.
Oh, it looks like you took down your fence and that raised your property value. You're like, what?
So I was going to talk about being expensive to be poor. The overdraft fee industry is $11 billion a year. The check cashing industry is $36 billion a year. Payday loan industry, $9 billion a year. You know, late fees, cash bail, fines, etc. Like, it's just like, it's really, really, and then, you know, if you have bad credit or whatever, then you're going to pay a higher interest rate. Like the list kind of goes on and on, but yeah, it's really, really, really expensive to be a poor person.
Yeah. I think again, like that's
like one of the things they talk about is like they bring up buying a house, right? So when you buy a house, you talked about, you know, it needs to be 20-30% of your income, right? And then so you go and you talk to the mortgage people, and they don't want to give you a loan because you can't afford 20-30% of this, right? And then so you go and you rent an apartment or you rent a house at 50% of your income, because they'll give it to you. Because it costs much, much, much more to rent than it does to own your home. The only difference really is, like, when you rent, you're not responsible for some of the things that break, versus when you own your home, you know, you have to be ready for the unexpected expenses.
Yep. AC goes out, got to replace the roof or whatever else. Yep.
Right. AC goes out, water heater breaks. But that's why we have insurance for a lot of those things. You get a warranty on your air conditioner. Like when you move in, you know, they have extended warranty plans for air conditioners. Like whether you buy an old house or a new house, like you can get hooked up on that stuff. Just like the extended warranty stuff on your car that they call you for every 5 minutes.
I don't know. I look at this and I'm just like, man, this seems corrupt as hell. Like I don't like anything about this.
It seems that way, but it's systemic. It's just another way that it's more expensive to be poor. I guess that's kind of my point. You know, like when you think about all the things that add up, this is just another example.
Right. This right here should not exist. That's what I'm saying. Like, right? And so the tax burden shift in one way or the other isn't fair. It's not right. It's not something that I would approve of. And it's not something that is good for anyone, in my opinion. If this is the tax rate, this is where it should be, and this roundabout way of getting to shifting the tax burden is wholly immoral. Is
absolutely.
Yeah. So again.
Yeah.
You know, how do you fix that, right? Is that laws on tax assessors? Do they have to average housing prices that are sold in the various neighborhoods? And do we have to revamp the way that we assess property values?
I would say that you have to look at like I think you would have to work in that they have to look at the housing market price of similar houses in the area, what they're actually going for.
I would agree with that, because the idea that this person just goes and looks at it or looks at like a plot layout, because I guarantee you these assholes ain't going out to look at the actual houses. They're looking at some plot layout and they're saying, hey, in this neighborhood, we can legally raise the prices by 10%, so we're going to do it across the board. Right. And then we're going to dare people to come and challenge us at City Hall. Why? So the city can make more money.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're right. They're probably not going to the houses to look at them.
They got their little plot map.
You're
and
absolutely
they're like, plus 10%. All this area right here.
Well, it was kind of funny. We bought this house brand new. Yeah, absolutely. They did come look at this house. We bought it brand new, and so they did check it out.
They give you a fair value on it, or did they overcharge you?
A fair value. I mean, it was okay.
That's good. That's good. Just next year, it's gonna suck.
But yeah.
You get the tax assessor letter, and it's like, plus 10%. It's the legal maximum.
Right.
So, we got to cut it here, buddy.
Yay.
Good talk.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of BroPartisan Hacks with Rhys and Rob. We really, really appreciate you watching, tuning in. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to us. We're putting out content as often as we can. Share it with your friends. Get it out there. Get our names out there. Also, hit that bell, tap that bell right there so that you can get updated when we put out a new video. Rob and I are trying to pump these videos out as often as we can. However, we both have day jobs, we have families, so our schedules have to line up so that we can make a new video. Speaking of our day jobs, our opinions and views expressed are our own and in no way represent those of our respective employers. Thank you. Thanks again for watching.